So one of the biggest critiques about the Nintendo Switch when it first came out was the lack of a D-pad that is included with the main system. Now, of course, Nintendo through the years has always had a good D-pad for the most part with their systems. The NES has one of the best D-pads that I've ever used, and from there they've pretty much always had a D-pad for the most part. But in this case with the Switch, they did not have a D-pad at all because they were kind of locked into making sure that each Joy-Con controller could turn into its separate controller. It'd be very difficult to give one person a D-pad and the other person 4 buttons, so they pretty much were stuck having to make it that way without any D-pad that comes with it initially. Now through redesigns, I'm sure they could eventually release a Joy-Con. Well, it looks like Hori has decided to kind of beat them to it here, and they're releasing a Joy-Con controller that is, of course, from them, not Nintendo, so it's a third-party controller that does have a D-pad. So you're going to see a picture of it here. It appears to only be in the color blue. It appears to only be releasing in Japan currently, and it's missing quite a few features. So first off, this Joy-Con controller from Hori that has the D-pad is $25 when converted from yen. So that's a pretty cheap price, right? But of course, sometimes when you see those prices, you start to wonder about the quality or features of that controller, and in this case, it's pretty much featureless almost. This appears to be pretty much a dedicated handheld device. That's right, this can only be used in handheld mode, so it's foregoing the SL and SR buttons on the top, right, the shoulder buttons, because it has no battery from what I can tell. It needs to be slid into the Joy-Con rail on the Switch to be used, so it cannot work wirelessly. There's no wireless communication, there's no HD rumble, there's no accelerometer, gyro function, none of that is there. This is pretty much a bare bones Joy-Con controller that, according to Hori, is specifically designed for fighting games in handheld mode. It cannot be used otherwise, so you're not going to take it out of the Switch and then all of a sudden use it in like grip or anything like that. It's just not going to work. And this really seems like a lot to lose just to gain a D-pad. The functionality is significantly decreased just to put a crossed D-pad on there, and we don't even know how good it is. This could be the best one ever, but it's so limited in functionality, I wonder why they are making it in the first place. I really don't know if it's worth taking it out of Japan. Now, I saw this on Famitsu when they first reported it very early in the morning, and it was translated and everything, and it looks like it's going to be just $25, handheld mode only, and that's about it. It's a very weird product to bring out, and it makes me wonder if any company will attempt to bring one to market that is more expensive. I mean, think about it. This one's $25. It's half the price of if you just buy a single Joy-Con, and much less, obviously, if you buy an $80 pair of Joy-Cons. So would it be the worst thing in the world if a third-party company tried to make a quality Joy-Con controller that included all of the features, or are those features kind of proprietary to Nintendo? That's something else I've wondered as well, as we see a lot of these third-party controllers and stuff that come out. Sure, they're cheaper, so they kind of forego a lot of these features, but I'm not 100% sure if Nintendo is giving them the tools to do this. Now, my question is to you guys, would you prefer to buy a more expensive Joy-Con controller, like we're talking like 50, 60 bucks for just the left one, if it was quality and included a quality D-pad, not a junky D-pad where you can press all of the arrows at once? In fact, if you look at the one that I built, because remember I got a shell and I reshelled it and it had a D-pad on it, this D-pad you could press in all 4 directions. So while this is serviceable, it's not really good technically. It's not as good as what we've had with Nintendo's prior D-pads. Is this better than all 4 buttons? Yes, it absolutely is. But do I wish at this point, after using this, that there was another one on the market that had a good D-pad, like a really good D-pad, like an NES style D-pad? Yeah, I do. Even a Super Nintendo D-pad would be preferable over this one, and probably this Hori controller. It's very odd. It does not come with the right one, of course. It's just that left one. And then you also have to sit down and wonder about the weight difference, because it's not going to have a battery, which is probably, when I took this apart, probably the heaviest part about this. The board inside, the motherboard, will probably be able to be shrunken because it's not going to need leads for things like the HD rumble, anything for accelerometer. None of that is going to be included here. And I wonder how much of a difference weight-wise that would be. Of course, it's going to be attached to the Switch, but you're also going to have another one over here. Will it feel a little awkward? And we don't even know about the texture of the plastic or the build quality. A lot of questions here. I don't know if I don't think it's going to be worth importing, or if it even comes over, if it's going to be worth buying. If you guys remember, I reviewed that controller from them before, and it wasn't very good. So I wonder if they would prefer, in this case, to sell cheaper stuff, just to try to get it off the shelves. I would like to see them, though, go back to the drawing board and try to build a good one that is more expensive. You know what? I would pay $50, which we pay for a single Joy-Con now, for a quality Joy-Con controller that has a quality D-pad with no compromises. Like, we're not taking out the rumble feature, we're not taking out the accelerometer, we're not taking out the entirety of it being a wireless controller. So it's very weird to see, but they're going forward with it in Japan only right now. I do hope Nintendo decides to bring their own controller with a D-pad for the Virtual Console going forward, as we expect the Virtual Console to be in full swing when this online service starts, where they offer us NES games at first that have online compatibility. That is the hope. Really, I guess that's the dream even at this point, is for them to release a D-pad enabled left Joy-Con. Let me know what you guys think about this Hori controller, this Hori left Joy-Con controller. But what do you think about it? Is it worth it? I mean, $25 is cheap, but it's barely a Joy-Con controller at this point, right? It needs to be put on the system. It has none of the features. Is it really worth buying? I don't think so, but I'm curious what you guys think about this, and how much would you pay for, in this case, a very good Joy-Con with a good D-pad. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for Newswave.